Hi, everyone. This video is called Toxic Non-Duality. And before we get into it, let's give an analogy, right? Let's say I started this video by saying, hey guys, here's the deal. This is actually not Earth. It's Mars that we've been living on this whole time. And actually the experience of Earth that we're all having is just this big illusion. And there's nothing that we can do to like get beyond that illusion, really. Like it will apparently happen or not that we get beyond the, illusion of being on Earth. And because we're already on Mars, you see, so there's like nothing to do and nowhere to go. But the experience of being on Earth is an illusion. Okay. So what would that do? It would put pressure on you to deny your most immediate experience of life and being. And whether it's true or not that this is actually Mars and not Earth, and at some point the fog clears and it's clear that we're on Mars, whether that's true or not, it's still not helpful to anybody to pressure them to deny their immediate experience. Okay. And I'm just using that as an analogy, the sort of Earth, Mars, this we're really on Mars analogy, to illustrate what it's like a lot of times to hear non-dual, especially like radically non-dual or like Neo-Advaita type teachings, right? So here's how I'm describing or defining rather toxic non-duality. Toxic non-duality describes a type of psychological pressure that some non-duality teachers, deliberately or not, put upon their students to deny their own immediate experience, especially if that immediate experience is dualistic or if it involves emotions that are seen as not non-dual enough, or it can be any kind of pressure that would uh, you know that would try to make a person align with the paradigm of the speaker or teacher in a way where it puts pressure on the person to deny their own immediate experience. Okay, so the position that I come from, or the point of view that I come from, is that you could say our experience of self and ego as our default mode of being, prior to the experience of a persistent sense of oneness, that's developmental. It's not bad or wrong. It's just something that's developmental. Like a lot of things in human psychology are developmental, and in spiritual development are developmental. And so it's not ontologically bad or wrong. And the fallacy I think in radical non-duality is this: if they're saying that, well, there's just this and the self is an illusion, well, the self as an experience is part of what is, right? It's part of the divine, it's part of what is, however we want to language that. And so it's not a mistake. Because it's not a mistake, there shouldn't be, I don't think, any downward pressure applied externally onto a person to deny their own immediate experience of life and being. That experience of life and being is developmental. At some point, I believe that all of us ripen into a state where we experience that kind of oneness. Oneness of self and other, oneness of self and environment, and the lessening of ego-focused resistance to various things that happen in our lives, whether relatively positive or negative. Okay, so that's spiritual growth, right? So anyway, I hope this is helpful just in your own life, being able to identify toxic non-duality when you see it, right? If you get, even if it's like a nice, friendly smile and eyes that seem like they look into your soul from some nice seeming person, and you get messages like, oh, there's no one here and that sort of thing, and you start to feel pressure to take on those messages that would have you deny your own experience, if it is an experience of a self or an ego or localized sense of being or internal contraction or what, however we talk about self and ego in these spaces. If you experience that as real, then that is your experience. You can't magic your experience into something else just because there's some, logically sophisticated or intellectually sophisticated, radically non-dual view out there that that somebody can articulate well, or somebody, they smile with their, they smile and speak in a soft voice when they're talking about it. It doesn't matter. If it's not your experience, it's not your truth. And I don't think it's anybody else's right to impose their experience onto anybody else, even if they say things like, well, there's nobody here having any experience, which I don't buy for a second. But in any case, so I hope that's at least helpful. That distinction of, just like there's toxic positivity out there, which is kind of like, that pressure to only have positive feelings, and we're not allowed to have any negative ones. This is toxic non-duality, the pressure to deny any experience that's not oneness because it's quote unquote not real, even if it is your immediate experience right now in the present. Okay. Hope this was helpful.